Remember in Attack of the Clones when Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas was name dropped and then never mentioned again? Today I'm answering the full story of Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas, why he left the Jedi Council, how he was killed by Count Dooku, and how the clone army was developed for 10 years without the Jedi discovering it. With this video, I will fill in what is considered the biggest plot hole in the entire history of Star Wars. Later in his life, Sifo-Dyas became a Jedi Master, and in 39 BBY, he was also a leading member of the Jedi High Council, the governing body of the Order, in the last decades of the Galactic Republic. However, sometime prior to the invasion of Naboo, tensions arose between Sifo-Dyas and his fellow counselors. In one instance, Sifo-Dyas was barred from recruitment duties when the council learned that he had often ignored procedures in an effort to swell the ranks of the Jedi Order, which led to him selecting inviable candidates and creating situations that complicated others' livelihoods. In one notable instance, he sought candidates from an orphanage on Quinn, but did not take time to understand their situations, which led to the abandoning of young Zilastra while her friends were taken to the Jedi Order, causing her to develop anti-Jedi sentiment that culminated towards her assassinating Jedi later in her life. Master Sifo-Dyas would foresee an upcoming full-scale conflict and as a result, started advocating for the creation of an army for the Republic. The rest of the High Council deemed his ideas too extreme, and Sifo-Dyas was removed from his position. Now it is important to clarify that he was removed from the Jedi Council, not as a Jedi altogether. I feel this is necessary to clear up considering the Jedi have kicked people out for way less. Even though the Jedi had rejected his project, he would find a way to carry it out without their consent. In 33 BBY, Sifo-Dyas contacted the Kaminoans, who were known for their clone hatcheries, so he would secretly task them with growing a clone army for the Republic. Dyas personally commissioned Prime Minister Lama Su to create the Clone Force and pretended it was a request of the Galactic Senate. Although it was not known how the Sith caught wind of the project, Dooku, who had left the Jedi Order and become a disciple of the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, later claimed that Sifo-Dyas had willingly worked with him to create the clone army because of the future Dyas had foreseen. If you are enjoying this video, consider subscribing because it does really help out the channel. 1 year later, in 32 BBY, Master Sifo-Dyas was approached by Finis Valorum, the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, on a secret mission to the planet Obi-Wan, the headquarters of the Pike Syndicate. Valorum, who was aware of the Jedi Master's expertise with the criminal underworld, asked Sifo-Dyas to negotiate a settlement with the Pikes, whose control of the galaxy's raw spice production was threatening a full-scale war in the underworld of Coruscant. Sifo-Dyas was accompanied by Silman, the Chancellor's personal aide. The mission was kept secret from the Jedi Council, as the Senate committee dealing with the matter feared the political repercussions of openly negotiating with the Pikes. And here we have a beautiful example of the corruption that is always mentioned when referring to the Republic during the prequels. However, Sifo-Dyas was never able to complete the Chancellor's mission, and shortly after he arrived on Obi-Wan, the High Council called him to deal with another conflict on Felucia. A skirmish had broken out between the local tribes, and Sifo-Dyas was assigned to quell the conflict. As a consequence, both Sifo-Dyas and Silman were diverted to Felucia aboard T6 Shuttle 775519. However, neither man would ever reach their destination, for Sidious needed Sifo-Dyas' clone army for his plot to bring down the Jedi and the Republic. Unwilling to leave Dyas alone as a loose end since Dooku would be connected to him, Count Dooku, under the title of Darth Tyrannus, betrayed his former friend by paying the Pike Syndicate to destroy Sifo-Dyas' shuttle. Since the Syndicate wished to gain an advantage over rival crime families, and Tyrannus' substantial offer would allow them to do just that, they accepted and shot down Sifo-Dyas' shuttle over the Obi-Wan moon. After inspecting the wreckage, they turned over the Jedi Master's corpse to Tyrannus as proof that the deed was done. While Sifo-Dyas had died in the crash, Silman was still alive when the Pikes inspected the wreckage. They decided to to keep the Chancellor's aide locked up in their prison as insurance against future action by Tyrannus, recognizing that anyone who would pay to have a Jedi assassinated was exceedingly dangerous. The spy stealers also left the Jedi's lightsaber at the crash site. Tyrannus subsequently took Sifo-Dyas' body and traveled to Felucia. Posing as another Jedi, Darth Tyrannus deceived the Felucian tribal elders into believing that Sifo-Dyas had died in the conflict, and had his body cremated according to Felucian custom, thus leaving the Jedi Council unaware of where and how the Jedi Master had truly died. And I'd like to think that Dooku did this as a partial sign of respect for his friend to have him cremated, as is traditional, which I could be wrong on, but I can only hope. But real quick, here's the Christian advice of this video. If you want to get back to the main video, then you can skip to this time right here. Now today we're actually looking at 2 Maccabees 15:38, which says, "If it is well told and to the point, that is what I myself desired, and if it is poorly done and mediocre, that was the best I could do." This is the word of the Lord, thanks be to God. And the meaning I took from this, sometimes what we create isn't exactly what we want, but as long as we did the best that we could, that is all that matters. And so yeah, sometimes things in your life may feel pointless, and you may not quite understand what the meaning behind things are, but you have to understand that as long as you are doing your best, that stands for something, and you will find value in that. But getting back to the video, comment down below if you think the story for Sifo-Dyas that was developed was good, or if it feels a little bit contrived. Personally, I think it kind of feels contrived, but it is generally good and almost fits with the rest of the story. But yeah, back to the video. Following Sifo-Dyas' death, Tyrannus and Sidious took over his clone army project themselves. Sifo-Dyas had originally planned for a behavioral modification biochip to be installed in each clone, which was to be a safeguard against rogue Jedi. However, Sidious and Tyrannus retooled the chips to brainwash the clones into murdering the Jedi. Posing as a Jedi, Tyrannus presented the chip to Lama Su and Nala Se and deceived them into believing Sifo-Dyas' invention. Dooku also traveled to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant to erase any mention of Kamino in the temple archives by way of making use of Sifo-Dyas' codes. 10 years later, Obi-Wan Kenobi would unravel a link to Kamino and travel there, discovering, to his surprise, a full clone army which had been ordered by Master Sifo-Dyas years prior. In Legends, part of the reason Dooku killed Sifo-Dyas was due to the Sith tradition to kill someone close to you as an act necessary to become a true Sith of the dark side. Also, his dead body was frozen in a cryogenic chamber, and his blood was used during the final surgery to turn General Grievous into a cyborg, and his lightsaber, a different one than was found on Obadiah's moon, was given to Grievous as his first lightsaber in his collection. I also think that Dooku had these happen as a sign of respect to his old friend, because otherwise his death, being frozen randomly, and just happening to be around to save Grievous is all too good to be true. While it's great that the Clone Wars expanded upon this, and I really like how towards the end of the war they showed the Jedi as getting close to finding out the truth, which feels in line with their thoughts on the Chancellor and Revenge of the Sith, but I also find that it somewhat was disappointing that the prequels leave this major plot point unanswered. I mean, I get that Revenge of the Sith already had a lot to focus on, so it would have been difficult to integrate this into the movie without it feeling out of place, but it kind of sucks that if you just watch the first 6 movies, that big mystery is left unanswered. And some of these sources for this video come from Attack of the Clones, The Clone Wars Season 6, Tales of the Jedi, and also various comics and books as well. But if you enjoyed this video, then you might also like this one where I looked at why Anakin Skywalker was the best Jedi General in the Clone Wars. But yeah, see ya.